everyone, welcome to another edition of the Inside Out Show. Thank you for joining us. My audience, you're awesome, thank you. And Charles, another pop of color.
Thank you, Charles. It's good you're trying bright colors now. I'm the one advising you now, you know.
Oh, please, come on. How have you been?
I've been good.
What's good? Any interesting developments?
Yeah, well, a lot of, comments on the topic. I can't wait for us to get into it. And it's one that affects me directly. I feel like you're going to come for me, but it's fine.
I will come for you. I will come for him. Okay, so today on the Inside Out Show, we are discussing culture shock. We decided to discuss this topic because in this 21st century, you realize that a lot of young people, first and foremost, don't go by their native names anymore. It's like, it's native name. Nobody can pronounce that, so just scrap that, push it to the side, go for some Western names. People don't travel home anymore. A lot of people don't even know where they are. Like their history, your traditional, like your village, a lot of people don't know. The few who know have never been to their village in, say, 5, 10, 15 years. You would be amazed. And others cannot even speak. Majority of us cannot speak our native language. It's a few of us who can just sort of like wobble in and out with a mixture of English, including myself. I'm guilty. I completely admit. And then you move on to other traditions, traditional marriages, so many things. Young people are saying it should be scrapped. And then we're thinking, where is this coming from? That's what led to the topic, culture shock. And I do have the perfect panelists to discuss this topic. And you'll be meeting them right after the show. Don't forget, this is the Inside Out Show. We'll see you on the other side. Okay, welcome back to the show. It is the Inside Out Show. I'm Sandra Eza. Thank you for joining us today. On the show, we're discussing culture shock. And I already told you like the angles we're taking on the show earlier. So now it's time to meet our awesome panelists. Thank you, first of all, everyone, for being, honoring our invitation and being on our panel today, starting with Dubi Imevore, who is a historian and culture preservation activist. Thank you. Moving on to Oluleke David. Thank you. Sociologist, right? So that's a different angle altogether. And the Meto Adoglo. You're an actor, and I'm really interested in your angle. Chris Soje, who is representative of National Institute of Cultural Orientation. Thank you for being here. Okay, so right. Thank you very much for being here, all of you. I'm looking forward to a very interesting discussion. Now, to kick this off, culture shock. Let's start with Dubi. What is culture?
Thank you. Culture actually is the sum total of a people's habits, language, what we can call customs, and everything that encompasses what we can say is innate about a people. So a culture determines how a people collectively actually run their societies. That's a nutshell, really.
Of what culture is. Okay. All right. And so what would you give as your definition of culture shock or loss of cultural identity?
Wow, wonderful. This is a bit very big. When you say culture shock, are we really shocked as a people after so many years of what I would call acculturation?
Acculture what?
Acculturation.
What does that even mean?
A mix of the culture we have now and the Western culture.
Okay, acculturation. That's a new word. Okay.
Yeah, hearing it for the first time. I'm sure my people here.
Charles, could you please look that up so we'll get the official definition of the word?
Acculturation, it's mix. You have, for instance, Christian, Islam, African traditional religion. There is nobody here who does not have these three in his family, friends, or any in Nigeria, in Africa. So there is a mix. So I don't know if we are still shocked as it stands, because we are living with it. Christianity, our mode of dressing, the kind of, I should be speaking Urubu, for example, or Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa or TV, but I'm speaking English. It's not my culture.
Because it's not your culture, but given the situation, everybody here is.
I'm not shocked anymore.
Okay.
Because I have come to accept it. How do I come out of this hoodwinking? It's what the problem is, not a shock. Thank you.
David, do you agree with him that you're not shocked? I mean, we shouldn't even be shocked about, you know, loss of identity. Do you agree?
Well, culture shock is just a concept in the sociological terrain, and we all live in the society, of course.
Right.
So we are all meant to be shocked whenever we are faced with a new culture. So what is culture shock? Culture shock could simply, you know, be described or defined as the disorientation that someone has whenever is faced with an unfamiliar way of doing things. We all have our cultures. Now, of course, let me just say this. Of course, you didn't ask me what the definition of culture is.
Feel free to chip it in.
Yeah, let me chip it in.
Okay.
I would not define culture as a particular way. They have all said one thing or the other. Merriam-Webster, Taylor, different people defined culture, and of course, they were right in their definition. However, I'm just going to say this, that culture is life. Culture is life.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. If somebody tells you that you are not well cultured or that you lack culture, if you think well, the next thing is for you to go and sit somewhere, think of the next thing to do, because that is a total brainwash. It's like the person is tantamount to the person telling you that you know next to nothing. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, coming back to culture shock, like I said, it's just a disorientation that somebody is facing whenever it comes with an unfamiliar way. So we are all meant to be shocked, and of course there are ways of coming out of it. So maybe I should stop there for now.
Yeah, I think we should, because we're getting to it. Let's go back to Meko. So you are of the liberal view. You don't care about culture. Can you speak your native language?
No.
You can't?
Not very good at it.
Okay.
I speak the general language in my country, French.
Okay. So what is your relationship with your cultural background? Do you travel home? Do you know your village? I mean,
I travel home. I know my village, but then I feel that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't indulge in the
like you distance yourself.
Yeah, I do not. I feel the age, the millennial age has us doing a lot more things than to indulge in just a lot of these cultural things. There's so many other things we're doing.
For
so
instance?
many other things. Money.
Money?
We have to make money.
Money. Do you know that native doctors make money? I mean, not to say that your view is not valid, but I'm talking like when it comes to money, native doctors make money.
We millennials here, we appreciate our parents for all they've done. Our parents are the cultural parents. We appreciate the way they've made their money. If, for example, my father was a native doctor and he's made his money that way, it doesn't mean I have to also be a native doctor to make my money. That I have to follow my own path, and with every generation, there's a different way of doing things.
But do you feel that part? Yeah, you may not be a native doctor. If my father was a native doctor, I would not even think of it. I would run away, you know. But do you feel that the fact that you don't want to be associated with your culture, or the fact that you don't agree with certain things, do you feel that justifies why you probably cannot speak your language? Because a lot of people will say that ability to speak your language is basic. It's like your #1 identity. But I noticed you actually bear your native name.
Yeah,
it's not an English name.
Yeah.
Why did you keep that? Why didn't you change it?
I like the name because it's my father.
It's
my
funky.
father gave me that name, and it actually tells a story. My name is a story between my father and my mother, how they met and how he went back home because of her. So I am the product of their union, and you know, if he decided to name me that, I love it all the same.
Wow. That's a good story attached to the name. I actually think the name is funky.
I do, because everywhere I go, it's a standout.
It's a conversation starter. It's a good name, and it's a native name.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah.
Every time. It
Okay.
means roots, my home.
roots, your home, which is the same place you're trying to run away from.
I'm not exactly running away. I just don't care much about it. I'm not running
You're
away.
indifferent.
Yeah.
Dubi, would you like to address that?
Before I even address that, there's a culture shock that has happened here. Native doctor. It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't?
So this is part of the problems I think we have. There's nothing like native doctor. It's part of the appellations from the colonialists to sort of denigrate issues that they don't really understand. Again, in Yoruba, we have, I don't know how many people speak Yoruba here, but we say, Eni to so ashanu, oso apoyako. I'm sure you like a translation to that.
Of course.
I will do a literal translation, then probably break it down, if you allow me. If you lose your culture, you have hung a bag of suffering on you.
Okay.
Coming up next on the show.
I will not see a Muslim and I said, no. I will not see a Judaist or an Hinduist or a Confucianist and I will say, no. These people aren't going to heaven. I did not create heaven. Who are you to judge?
When a Yoruba man speaks Igbo to me and is only on outside, I understand. How do we communicate?
The oath that public officers take in offices is ineffective. If it is the effective one that was taken in our tradition, the repercussions will be very obvious. You see, being indifferent to culture means that you are losing your innate identity. Let us look at how we run our society today, politically, educationally, Now, the politics of Nigeria it was Westminster, which was British. Now it is American presidential system. But I have had to research once, while in a British library, that one of the most developed democracies in the world was the one practiced by the Alafin Oyo, the Oyomesi system, right? It was more effective, yes. Now we are now imposing on ourselves a system that is alien. Again, that's a form of clash of cultures, which is probably creating a culture shock. We might say we are not shocked anymore, like Chris said. But the fact is that the effect of the clashing of culture is actually like a shock to our system, because we don't do anything right anymore. Look at the kind of people we put in politics, in government, right? If it was what we had in culture, nobody dares take an oath in office and continue to plunder the economy.
Ideally, what would have happened to them? Let's say back in 1945 or thereabout. Ideally, what would have happened to them if they took a vow and,
Well, Yoruba has another saying. Oguni shinimu ekbenueni kishinija.
Okay.
So that means you can be mistakenly captured in war, but the effects of the oath or curse you use your mouth to profess will not mistakenly go to somebody else.
Okay, that's deep.
So the issue now is that obviously the oath that public officers take in offices is ineffective, right? If it is the effective one that was taken in our tradition, the repercussions will be very obvious.
Now, you are a historian, Dubi, and Chris, you are pro culture preservation as well.
Sure.
Right? So, did anything he said, is there anything he said you disagree with?
No, I would not disagree with any of the things he has said, because these are things we see every day, except perhaps we want to deceive ourselves. Yes, I'm a Christian, born into Christ, and we just practice Christianity because what we go do? Everybody they go church. We are all going.
But doesn't that make you need the hair? No,
No, not at all. Not at all.
Really?
Because,
David, do you agree?
Because can I justify that? Because in as much as I am practicing Christianity by the fact by the dint of the fact that I mean we got entangled with Western cultures, it will not make me see somebody who is ATRO and I cast an aspersions on you and say, God forbid. I will not see a Muslim and I say, no. I will not see a Judaist or an Hinduist or a Confucianist and I will say, no. These people aren't going to heaven. I did not create heaven. Who are you to judge? Even the Bible made it clear. You don't have powers to judge anybody. It is a personal encounter.
So, David, I would like to get your perspective. I'm coming to you, Metal. Having heard everything they've said, I would like you to establish your stand on this topic and also tell us, should we completely eradicate European culture?
I'm looking at it from the sociological perspective. Now, a sociologist is referred to as a societal engineer. As a matter of fact, they call us societal endirons. What do you refer to as endiron? This tripod cooking pot. You know, so in other words,
we call it itona.
Itona, okay.
Yeah, that's what we call it. But go ahead.
Okay, so in other words, a society cannot thrive well without sociologists, without the input of sociologists. So that explains why I'll be coming from that perspective. Nigeria is an heterogeneous society, not homogeneous, not of the same kind, of different kind.
Various.
Of different kind. So it's not just going to be difficult to maintain a pattern. It's practically impossible. Okay, now that we know it's impossible, at least we have established the fact. So what do we do? How do we come out of it? Now in sociology, the word good and bad, they are just English words. When you say something is good, to what extent is it good? To you, it's
depending
good.
on values of
the society. It depends on where you're standing.
Okay.
So when you say something is bad, to what extent is it bad? So as societal engineers, we don't say something is outrightly wrong or is outrightly good. We sieve and then we pick what could move the society forward. So my stand on this. Thank you. Thank you. Now my stand on this, Nigeria being an heterogeneous society, we need to communicate well to ourselves via a particular channel, language, which in this case is English language. Even though the Britons colonized us, and that is why, you know, we speak English. But my point is this: when a Yoruba man speaks Igbo to me, and it's only on outside I understand, how do we communicate? So I think for me to say that someone is an herbalist, a native doctor, and I should castigate that person, it would be wrong.
But would you applaud the person?
No, I would not. Well, that is where individual principle comes in. And you know, so I said something the other time. I said culture is life. Even you as a person, you have your own culture.
Are you of the opinion that we should completely eradicate our traditional culture?
No, not at all. I feel
So
it comes down to an individual, whatever he wants. So, but personally, no.
But if you had the option to completely eradicate it out of your life, like scrap, maybe, I don't know if your people do traditional weddings and all that.
Yeah.
So if it's within your power to just scrap all the celebrations and everything that happens during burial, just people die, just bury them, have your white wedding, give your children English names, and just life easy breezy. Would you go for that option?
No, I wouldn't. But personally, I'd rather not. I'll just skip the traditional weddings and everything traditional.
So you're selective of the culture you want to keep and remove?
Yeah.
Okay. Dubi.
Again, I went to a missionary school in Lagos, popular one, right? Now, part of the regulation is that you dare not speak your mother tongue. It was called vernacular. I'm sure those of us who schooled in that era realize that we were punished in our fatherland for speaking our mother tongue.
That is true.
Is that not culture shock? Right.
But so, you could understand, well, this is a question actually. You could understand why they would do that. In Nigeria, we have people from we have over 300 different tribes. There. Okay?
I understand where it's coming from. It is part of the colonial strategy to divest us of our culture so we can be like them. And when we are like them, we are slaves.
But if there wasn't the intervention of English language,
sorry?
If there wasn't the intervention of English language, we would still be a different society. Do you think we would even have one Nigeria? Because he is Yoruba, and then he can't speak Yoruba to me, who is Igbo, and then she is outside, she is Steve. How do we communicate?
I'm not even interested in Nigeria.
You're not?
It's a misnomer. Where in any of the languages we speak in the so-called Nigeria does the word Nigeria come from?
Niger area.
Coming up next on the show.
A Christian hears Orisha, the next thing they tell you is that, oh, that evil. Orisha comes from the Yoruba word. The etymology of Orisha means Ori Ti Asha.
I just think it's a bit too difficult for us to cohabit as one, coming from the angle of unity now.
Western culture has made our lives easier. You have mobile phones, that's Western culture. You have the internet, that's Western culture. You have the clothes. I mean, I can't imagine myself moving around in Jigida. Okay? That's an English word, Niger area.
It's an English word. So the culture of Nigeria is English. Yeah. We don't need Nigeria. Nigeria is a creation.
Next up.
So the whole project of Nigeria is part of the efforts of imperialists to take our culture away from us. And that culture was also done, that taking away of our culture was also done through religion. If you are a Christian, you are following the Judeo-Christian Greco-Roman culture. Right?
I don't even...
If you are a Muslim, you are following the Arab culture. So we have what we call Afro-Europeans and Afro-Arabians.
But before, I'm asking you this question because it might be a little digression, but I'm curious. I haven't heard this before, right? So before Islamic religion and Christianity and other religions came in, what were we practicing?
I'm surprised you're asking that.
I'm asking because I said I don't know, and there's no shame in not knowing.
Don't let us bury our heads in the sand. We have our traditional religious spiritual systems. In Yoruba, we have the Orisha system, right? What does Orisha system mean? A Christian hears Orisha, the next thing they tell you is that, oh, that evil. Orisha comes from the Yoruba word. The etymology of Orisha means Ori Ti Asha. Ori, which literally means the head, and Sha, which means selected. But when we talk of head, Ori, we are also talking about like the innate personality or the over-self of an individual. So in Christianity, for instance, they talk about saints. In Catholicism, they talk about saints. Saints were people who lived and they become sort of deified. In our own culture, we had those who lived and became deified because they performed legendary things. And the Yoruba equivalent of saints is Orisha. But the whole indoctrination of alien religion has imposed a sort of mindset that gives an evil connotation to Orisha, but it doesn't give an evil connotation to saints. And these are the kind of mechanics that are actually putting off our people from pursuing the lines of culture, because they have actually been programmed to believe that a lot of those things that are part of our spirituality are evil.
Okay, so Chris, what's your religion?
I'm not a religionist. I don't believe in religion. I believe in spirituality.
You believe in spirituality? Okay. No, but I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it because obviously as a... Okay, Charles, let me have your comment.
Sorry, you said something about the fact that the Nigerian culture is English, yes? I won't use the word Nigeria since you said it's English. I'll use the term country. Don't you think it will be a bit difficult for... Because there's so many, tribes in the country. Don't you think it will be too difficult for us to cohabit as one, coming from the angle of unity now? Don't you think so? Yes, sir.
I think he's asking me.
Yes.
Don't I think it will be difficult
For us to cohabit?
Yes, it will. It will, because the whole basis of bringing us together is fraudulent, right? So
it is fraudulent.
So if you force people who are not related in any way to live as a family, you are going to precipitate conflicts. And that is exactly what the whole project Nigeria is about.
So you're saying Nigeria is a mistake?
What does
that mean?
Interpretation, please. Hold on. Wow. There are people watching who are clueless of what you just said. So please, when you give the adage, could you please give us the translation?
When a chicken or a hen or a fowl or whatever perches on a rope, both the chicken and the rope are not comfortable.
So, Meto, don't you think you're buying too much of the Western culture?
I know I am buying too much of the Western culture. The Western culture is easier. It's made a lot of things easier. The internet is easy. If it wasn't for the Westerners, we have internet. We would not have any internet. They've made life easier for us, and we're enjoying it. Every single one of us, even the cultural ones of us, enjoy the internet. So,
that's a very valid view, because Western culture has made our lives easier. You have mobile phones, that's Western culture. You have the internet, that's Western culture. You have the clothes. I mean, I can't imagine myself moving around in Jigida.
I think I need to make one or two comments before I actually go into your...
Okay.
First of all, computing is not Western culture.
Computer isn't Western culture?
No.
Are we going to go back to Egypt?
Ifa taught the world computer.
Ifa?
Go and research.
Is that true?
Very true.
Charles, could you please look that up? Because let's just
go and
use
research
the computer.
it.
Yeah,
go and research
we'll
what
check it out.
Professor Lunge said.
We'll check it out.
Binary, Ifa is binary formation, right? Before the Boolean theory of algebra.
Sorry, who is Ifa for somebody like me who doesn't really know?
Oh, who is Ifa?
Okay.
Ifa is not a who.
Is a what?
Ifa is a phenomenon.
My apologies. Look, I'm from Igbo, right? And things I know in Igbo is I know Amadioha. I'm more familiar with that, Igbo, but I don't know about the Yoruba tradition. In Igbo,
it is called Afa. For your information, yeah, it's a divinatory system, and it's also what I would call a universal esoteric database. I will explain to you. Europe had Ifa. It is called geomancy. Japan has Ifa. It is called Shinto. Right? Chinese, they have a 3-6-bit binary formation that is like Ifa called I Ching. Right? Right? So it is actually a way of querying a kind of database. In Sanskrit, that's the Indian tradition, it is called the Akasha. Right? So this binary system, when the Caucasians were living in caves, our own fathers knew how to query a binary system of database, which is now the basis of computing today. Even the Boolean theory of algebra, the people that Boolean that started it, and a man called Leibniz. Leibniz was credited with what we call binary today. Leibniz confessed that they first of all knew about the binary formation of algebra from West Africa.
You know what? Could you help us explain? This is really deep.
Really deep.
This is really deep.
I'm so shocked.
No,
I'm really trying to keep up because a lot of these things I haven't heard them before. So culture shock is way deeper than I actually expected this topic is going. But help us explain what we have on that screen. It doesn't make sense.
That is the problem of, you see, we think that you are asserted now that they thought of how to, if not for them, we wouldn't know internet. If not for them, we wouldn't wear clothes. We taught them how to wear clothes.
But we weren't really wearing clothes.
I will refer you to certain publications, historical publications. Dr. Ben Yohanan, the black man of the Nile. Go and read accounts of proper, authentic history of the Africans.
Okay.
Then you will know that they taught us nothing. Fella said it. We both not teach us nothing now. We open them eye. Now 500 years later. So your colonial education blinded you, put a veil over your culture and taught you something that you think is original. You want me to be explaining this?
Is that going to take the whole day?
That is where will I start? The round thing is what we called an okponyifa, which is a divining tray of divination. Before I even tell you how to use it, let me tell you the significance. The circle as a symbol represents the universal essence of existence. Circle, right? If you divide that circle, if you draw a diameter through it, in Yoruba, we will explain it as what we call Igbaye, the calabash of the world. On the upper...
Please go ahead.
So the upper part of that circle is called Orun. Most people will call it heaven, but in Yoruba we call it the other world, the world of the unseen. Below is Aye, that's our own material world. That is what that circle represents, and we use it for divination. So that means when you are divining, you are tapping into the world of the other world and our world to get some sort of answer to the inquiry. So I will leave that as that. That chain there that you see, you can see that it has 4 seeds on either side, right?
Yes.
Now, those seeds have a concave and a convex side. That's an inner and outer side. And you can get 256 possible combinations from that divining chain. What do we have in our data bit system? 2, 4, 8 till you get to 256. That's what's behind computing. Our forefathers knew about it before them.
Okay. Right. Let me. Are you as confused as I am, Metal?
If our ancestors were so good at computer and they had all this knowledge, why didn't they colonize the whites? Why was it the other way around?
Well,
Coming up next on the show.
So you're saying the effect of power is the same on every man?
It's the same on any angle. If the Africans had power, they would have expanded. It's just they were dumb and they were not able to.
when we talk prisoners of wars you capture, right? Generally, it's not the same thing as with the transatlantic slavery. Let's make that distinction.
Africans are people who mind their business. They don't delve into other people's business. Are you listening? Please,
If they could make ships, they would have made ships across the Atlantic Ocean.
That's a valid question.
Yeah, the issue is that the African mindset is not about colonizing and enslaving. The mindset of the Caucasian is so evil that they have to force and colonize people to enrich themselves.
Mental.
Africans have even practiced slave trade.
Hold on.
Africans have been enslaving themselves even before the colonials came. take Egypt for example. Did they not enslave the Jews? Africans enslave each other. They have been slave trade long before the colonials came.
All right. When you say slavery, right, there is nothing in history that is equivalent to the transatlantic slavery.
Of course.
Right? Now, in the world, people everywhere, if there is a war, for instance, we capture what they call prisoners of wars. In the African societies, they never changed their mouth. In fact, there are slaves that became kings in their enclaves. So when we talk prisoners of wars, you capture, right? Generally, it's not the same thing as the transatlantic slavery. Let's make that distinction.
Fact is, yeah.
Everybody enslaves themselves. So when you go to war in Yoruba, they say Okeru, Okeru. He captured people and he captured goods. And that's a phenomenon in humanity. We can't restrict it to any African. What we are saying is that the transatlantic slavery that dehumanized African people, there is nothing like it anywhere else. So you can't help
Fact is that man anywhere you go in the world, man is the same, yeah? When man gets power, man must acquire more land, man must expand.
So you're saying the effect of power is the same on every man?
It's the same on any angle. If the Africans had power, they would have expanded. It's just they were dumb and they were not able to. The colonials were smart enough to, and they did colonize us. And I think they should have the respect. We should give them the respect for that.
Too, I am very uncomfortable with the dumbness of Africans.
No, I'm not saying we are dumb.
We are
our
Africans,
ancestors were not smart enough.
Our ancestors made us.
They made us. That doesn't mean we have to be dumb.
Let's hear you, Chris.
Yeah. The problem is this. The question is not whether we are the rationale behind them coming here. Why did they leave their enclave for us?
But
they want more money.
Exactly.
They want to subjugate.
Exactly.
Is it that Africans
You're making my point.
If it's possible, they want to excommunicate us.
Is it that the Africans don't want more money? Does it mean
no, the Africans are people who mind their business. They don't delve into other people's business. Are you listening? Please,
they
will have made ships across the Atlantic Ocean.
I understand you are entirely very westernized. It's understandable. Nobody is questioning that. You have a right.
It's not just him.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Nigerians.
But
even me, to a certain extent, I share his opinion. Let's be honest,
but
right?
It is part of my duty to decolonize the African mind.
Okay.
To open our eyes to things that we should know. Perhaps we know them, but we don't know them enough. Ask yourself, have you heard the word reincarnation?
Yes, a lot of times. That's
what is reincarnation in your language? Iluwa.
Yeah, Elo was, yeah.
Good. What is it in Yoruba language? For instance, Babatunde, Yetunde. All those are semblances of reincarnation. But is reincarnation real?
No. Is it real?
They came and brandished our ideologies, our African thoughts as reincarnation. Who reincarnates who? At what point was reincarnation? At what point did it take place? When husband and wife meet, is it during sexual intercourse that the person is reincarnated, or after 9 months? How come the person did not go back exactly the way he died before? In the case of Abiku? Are we asking ourselves these questions? The Oyibo man, once he does not have anything to look for, a way to reduce your culture, he gives it a name to suit his purpose. That you are reincarnated. Is it true? The Oyibo man have no word for it. They call it reincarnation. Is there a thing like reincarnation?
You just said it's real.
What is real? Reincarnation is a farce. It's fake. How can you reincarnate? For instance, what can you transliterate Omoluabi for?
What is even the word?
Omamomo for Yoruba language, a good behavior, a good person. When you say Omoluabi, most of you are Yorubas understand it. Good morals, good behavior. Omamomo for Yoruba language. Now, if the Oyibo man wants to turn it upside down, he can call it a spiv. You know what's a spiv? Somebody who's dubious.
Oh, okay.
Okay? You that, because he does not understand what Omamomo is, for it to bend that Omamomo from white to become black, he calls it a spiv.
David, let's get to you. You've been itching to talk. Let's get your view on things.
Okay, all right. You see the reason why I said culture is life. Just as you said, some deep revelations. Yeah, please just keep it there. I will make a reference to this. You know, I just told you, I said culture shock is not outrightly bad. In fact, it is needed. And so there is a way, or there are ways to come out of culture shock. And I think as people that want development in the society, now when I say society, even as we are here, we are in a society. A family is a society. Are you getting the point? So not just the nation. So now developing a society, how do we come out of culture shock? With what we have here, if you can see it very well and read, it says the illustration below shows the activities during Ifa divination. It displays the basic steps during the divination from the point of, and so on. Now, Meto said something the other time. It's just that I don't agree with how that they were dumb and stuff. But he made a point that if the Africans knew this, then why
The need to be, why were they colonized?
Why would they have to be colonized? Why didn't they develop this? Now, the whites, they saw this concept, and the concept was just for divination. You know, the gods to their clients. Then they saw it, and then they felt, okay, we could develop this to mean something big that will be international. Yeah, of course, teaching mathematics came out of this and stuff, but it was never that big as at this period. I get what I'm saying? Now that explains the fact that a typical white man or a laboratory over there, they see a small boy, you know, trying to make a motor car toy now, maybe with paper or something. Instead of telling the boy, go and read your books like we do here, they'll be interested, like calling him over to the lab and see how, are you getting my point? They want to develop. So that's why I say, you don't say this culture is bad, this one is right. You look, the best way, you know, the last stage, which is the acceptance stage, is to try to understand the reason why people do what they do. Try and stand at their own point of view. Don't rationalize it based on where you were coming from. That is the only way to move forward.
Stay with us. This is the Inside Out Show, and we are discussing culture shock. Quite some shocking revelations. We'll be right back.
Coming up next on the show.
We have language programs every August for 30 days. Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Urobo, you know, in the South.
We have so relegated our culture. We have put it so much to the background that a lot of our people have begun to see it in very, very derogatory and subdued terms. And a people that forget their culture or history, they don't usually advance.
Okay, welcome back. It's still the Inside Out Show, and we are discussing culture shock. So let's bring it down to what affects us right now.
It's not worse when we are doing 3-in-1 marriages. 3-in-1, you do white wedding, you do court wedding, you do traditional wedding. Only one couple.
And you still do introduction.
No, well, that is for some cultural groups actually. Because for some you could do for some you go in the house, they already know you, so you don't need to introduce. It's only perhaps in the West Yoruba culture that you introduce.
In Igbo culture, you do introduction as well.
I mean, what stops us, for example, if we put all these three in one day? Your traditional wedding, your white wedding as it is called now, and perhaps even the court. Why not?
In one day.
Why not?
Juby, what's your view?
That's-
Do you think white wedding should be scrapped?
Yes,
Why?
it's not ours.
It's not ours.
That's-
So you feel traditional wedding should be the official wedding?
Yes, I remember some years ago when I was in the United Kingdom, and I met a Jamaican lady who traveled to Nigeria, and of course she attended a wedding, and she came back and started asking me that she doesn't understand our people. I said, why? He said, because every other person attending the wedding are in very resplendent attire, and the parties to the wedding, the bride and groom, are in the kind of attire, especially the suit. For her, the suit is what people wear to work every day. So for her, the value of that wedding is diminished. Reduced. Yeah, by wearing suits. Whereas other people who are not the parties are wearing something really resplendent. Is that not a problem? Now, again, my brother there was saying that culture, no culture is bad and all that kind of thing. I have not said any culture is bad. And I'm not going to advocate for people to castigate other people's
But you just don't support us buying
what I am,
Western
my own
culture.
point is that we have so relegated our culture. We have put it so much to the background that a lot of our people have begun to see it in very, very derogatory and subdued terms. And a people that forget their culture or history, they don't usually advance.
So, as is our tradition, we would end with audience interaction. So this is just about time. Let's have your question, sir.
We come to this topic, culture shock. I believe why we have culture shock is because we are not culture conscious. That is the problem. Because if you can tell me that culture is a kind of life, means that it affects every aspect of our life. Now, it is a pity we are living under a borrowed culture. That is why we are having fracas up and down. And it tells that the problems comes from, will I say, religious, government, and every other thing that emulated to it. So I believe that it lies on our parents. We have a lot of work on our parents. We'll push it to them. They should.
All right, thank you.
Can I react to that?
Quickly.
Can I react to that quickly?
Quickly, please. Yes.
For those of you who think, you know, the culture thing, you are still in shock. That is why we in the National Institute for Cultural Orientation, we have today we have a program called Dress Culture. We do not wear westernized clothes to the office like it used to be. Maybe once or twice in a week. This is our attire now. Not like it is. You can't take this to the office. Sorry, please, with due respect. It's westernized. Okay? Now, we have language programs every August for 30 days. Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Urobo. You know, in the South. If it's around here, you have about 4 or 5 languages for 1 month. We have an ongoing program now, which we call a weekend language program. Every 2 hours, Friday, Saturdays, Sundays. Designated centers like the Gomu, you know, Gomu National Theatre. You go there. It is free. You can go and learn on any of the languages.
Okay.
We have. I mean, you could Google.
Next question.
The question I have for you is that, well, Nigeria is a heterogeneous nation, and I believe English language is a way of bridging, you know, the gap between us. So the question I have for you is that, let's assume that we are not so obsessed with English language. Is there any way we can, maybe out of our local dialect, you know, bring about a form of unity instead of using English language as a bridge among the different ethnic groups.
All right, now the mic.
Again, we're in a situation, I'm communicating in English now. I have no choice. Like most of us don't have a choice because that's how we have been brought up. But what I advocate is that if you really look at the demographics, about 70% to 80% of our people don't really understand English. Not that they can't speak it, but they can't really, they're not really schooled in it, right?
There's an alternative, pidgin.
Well, even pidgin. Okay, well, I'm coming to a point now.
Okay.
Now, if you look at a country like China, they don't use English to educate themselves. English is like a second language. Now, I'm saying one thing. The artisans we have in our country, mechanics, carpenters and all, you imagine that we take a Toyota Corolla, we look at its technical specification or manual and translate that manual into maybe Yoruba or Igbo and allow that artisan to train as a motor mechanic with his language, he will be very excellent. Sure. Those are the kind of things I'm advocating.
Okay. All right, any other question? No?
In addition to what you had just said, China, for example, have a plethora of languages, just like Nigeria. It's not just the Chinese. They have other languages as well. But they were able to pick Chinese and make it a national language to propel their development. We can do something like that in Nigeria.
Okay, let's have your final comment.
I feel all this, I feel it comes down to every individual, to what he or she wants, especially the millennials. I don't think anybody wants to be forced, any culture to be forced on he or her. Everybody just have what they want, and I feel you should respect it.
Right. Okay. You know, I think that is such a fantastic way to round it off. Not disregarding your comments though, but culture is, you know, what works for you. Try as much as possible to respect the traditions, but I think if it doesn't work for you, still respect it. But even better, have an understanding of where you come from. A man can only, I mean, you're as good as your background, you're as good as your history. You should know your history, you should know where you come from, because at the end of the day, that is, no matter where you go in the world, just like you're Nigerian and you have your green passport, that green passport is your automatic identity before they even find out your name and all that. So thank you for being a part of today's show. Don't forget to go to our social media pages, that's Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and follow us, post your comments and share your stories with us. And also a big thank you to DJ Rabiu, Beauty by Omalicha and Abel Cell Nigeria Limited. Thank you for being partners with us on the Inside Out Show. So see you on the next episode of the show. Till then, God bless you. Take care. Bye.